Being at the mech battle rooms for the second time, Wang Jung couldn't wait to dash in and get his hands onto the simulators. Even the lower-end mech rooms were rather huge. Most importantly, the mock training system on Aslan was said to be comparable to a real battle, and furthermore, there was no need to hold back. They could exhibit their attacking skills at ease. It was undeniable that the Mecha Tiger was very reliable. The mech ID he had gotten was rather useful, and he received user rights straight away. It wasn't actually as bad as Kai Muya had described. There were 5 different levels of user rights for students, and the one that Wang Jung had was level 2. It was not the worst. The mech training field was humongous. There were many of the same type of mecha, and there were also the larger mecha types. What Wang Jung saw was merely the tip of the iceberg, just a small part of the mecha training field. Aslan Royal College had indeed put in everything for their hardware and facilities. In Aslanian words, although one might never become the very best at piloting a mech, since they could get the best in terms of hardware with their money, why not? This was no doubt the tone of wealthy men. But, damn, why was the mech training room so popular? Student Wang was prepared to have a good time, only to find that there were many people who shared similar thoughts. Other than the rooms being used for class, all others were allowed to be used freely within the levels of rights given. However, the usage of the room was also affected by different levels of priority within the levels of user rights. Damn it, what sort of lousy day was this? The training rooms were almost completely filled, especially those with lower levels of authorization. What a scam. After going all the way around the field, he finally caught sight of a training room door opening. Student Wang dashed up immediately. The guy took a quick glance at Wang Jung and said, "I'm going to the toilet, wait for your turn." God damn. Wang Jung felt helpless, but thankfully, Student Wang's brain worked fast. He connected to the system using his Skylink to check if there were unpopular mecha. He couldn't believe that all mecha were being used. It was a pity that there were no War God No. 1, Hercules, or mecha of that type. To put it simply, mecha that were way too far on the lower spectrum were not used on Aslan. In the Aslanian mecha beliefs, the pilots were important and so were the mecha. Wasting time on poor quality mecha was also a form of disrespect towards the pilots. They were elitist from head to toe. Very soon, Wang Jung found an unoccupied mech. An Arbiter Overlord mech. This mech was not of a low level, but here, it was classified as a level 2 and was left unused. It was probably because Arbiter had a bad name on Aslan. Wang Jung immediately rushed over according to the instructions on screen. Zoom. The feeling of adrenaline surged through him. This was a true blue Overlord mech. Looking at the slightly larger than usual mech, Wang Jung felt excited. This feeling of realness was not something CT could bring about. When a person had sufficient skills and abilities to operate a mech, he would surely look for a new challenge. Only that would make him feel alive. After touching and experiencing how it felt, Wang Jung entered the cockpit. That feeling and level of comfort. Arbiters may be weird, but their mecha were pretty good. Wang Jung didn't know how he would apply the thing that Xie Yuxin had said about Ability X, but at the very least, he could make use of this period to understand more about mecha. A real battle was the best way of allowing one to understand the capabilities of a mech. Student 12122, begin battle. Yes. Wang Jung was puzzled. This was what Kai Muya claimed to be a good number. Once a real Overlord mech was used, they would feel the amount of pressure on the body increase. This mech was indeed rather violent, but the power it could exert was larger than normal mecha too, and such feelings could not be experienced in court. The humongous shield was polished finely and was detailed. The sides were imprinted with spirals that were obviously used to increase its spinning speed and ability to rotate. The smoothness of the arched tip was a work of art. The mech seemed steady but was able to exert a burst of movement if needed. A hooked pike hung from its hands, and it felt comfortable to hold. It was so detailed that even the spiral design of the hook allowed the pilot to improve his grasp on the weapon. This type of mech could actually exude an aura on men. Different levels of understanding of mecha would give completely different effects. Among the various types of weapons, the pike was frequently used in training. It could be used in all sorts of situations and adapt to anything. Reality could never be replaced by the virtual world. In CT, Wang Jung could only use certain tricks and techniques at most. But this was a completely different thing. The designer of this mech had put in a lot of effort. This was truly a masterpiece. The shield. The use of the shield was rather broad too. It appeared to be used for defense, but it could also be used in attacks. Basically, the Overlord had been designed with simplicity in mind. Even its cannon firing capabilities were simple. Simplicity also made it easy for it to inflict damage. The pike was good. It was exquisite. For someone who was good at using pikes, it could be used however they wished. It was a pity that the arbiters were talented at war but stopped short at the surface. The Overlord mech stood motionless in the training room, as though it was senile. Even the system gave out a warning. Student 12122, please do not waste shared resources. If no selection is made in 30 seconds, the system will log off automatically. Thank you. 29, 28, 27. Every sound was like some sort of a melody. It has to be said that mecha these days were like weapons in the ancient days. It could indeed cause a wonderful change when in the hands of a warrior. The user of the Atlantis Phantom King was not Wang Zheng, he was more like an onlooker. But it was not the same situation, he personally felt something extraordinary. 8, 7, 6. The Overlord mech boomed to life. It stepped forward suddenly, shields raised, looking intimidating. The pike struck without warning, and as it turned around, it moved as vigorously as a dragon flying into the skies, its grandeur second to none. Rat-a-tat, rat-a-tat, rat-a-tat. It moved with an extremely rhythmic pulse, like a majestic and grand war song. The change between pike and the enormous shield, coupled with the seemingly normal but unfathomable footwork, made people feel as if they were watching a flowing piece of art. Time had lost all meaning. Wang Zheng was completely engrossed in it. This was the excitement he wanted. The feeling that he craved. The mech that he wanted. After a set of extremely ferocious attacks, Wang Zheng was perspiring. He was pumped up. He was in his best condition. This was how it felt after a warm-up, now, for a vigorous battle. Wang Zheng opened up the selection menu and entered the anonymous battling mode. Aslan probably had extraordinary standards. Wang Zheng picked a name out of the long list of challengers. This person had a domineering name, Lonely Ace. Lonely Ace was most probably an ace. This was not court. Anyone who dared to use such a name had to be a master. The vice president of the Fencing Society, Honduras. Fencing, an aristocratic sport recognized amongst many empires and republics. Only those who were extremely fast and reflexive could master this art of attacking. Honduras was out for a challenge. There was no need for him to be anonymous. He welcomed people he knew to come and challenge him. It was just that there were also cons to not being anonymous. The aces and masters would not challenge him, while the random opponents were too weak. Did he really have to openly challenge others all the time? At Aslan Royal College, anyone with a status valued challenges but would not challenge anyone. At times, they would rather be anonymous. Nobody showed up even after a long wait. Honduras was ready to leave when someone connected. Anonymous. Damn. Which dumbass is it this time, trying his luck in attempt to get fame? Well, since he's here, let's just play. Time to teach this newbie a lesson, buddy. Honduras was only good at using one type of mech. The Aslan Imperial Swordsman. This was actually a mech more suited for female pilots. It was light and agile. But most people with a fencing background liked this mech. It could exhibit the cold methods of fencing attacks. In the manifold of warfare tactics, fencing was the best. Wang Zheng was deeply engrossed. The mech used by the opponent was clearly similar to the Bright Moon, but its attitude appeared neutral. Probably an assassin-type mech that emphasized agility and speed. When Honduras saw that the opponent was using an overlord, he was between laughter and tears. Which arbiter dummy fancied using an overlord to challenge him? A classic nutcase. Using the Imperial Swordsman to attack the overlord was a beating session that had zero difficulty. He would suppress the enemy to his death. 10 seconds was all he needed to end the match. Someone challenged Honduras. Oh, damn, who is cocky enough to use an overlord to challenge an Imperial Swordsman? Did this guy swallow some kind of magic pill? Probably fell out of love, looking for something to make him feel alive again. Nothing fun about it. It will take 1 minute at most to end the match. Damn, you take Honduras for a cripple? Half a minute will be enough. Wang Jung very much enjoyed the state he was in. The outside world had nothing to do with him at all. It was as if he and the mech had become one. The silver mech came at him at an extreme speed, with simple yet ferocious steps. By the looks of such an attack, there was no doubt a leaping strike would be used. It was an exquisite move that had been repeatedly trained. The Overlord mech moved with its shield raised, just as everybody had expected. When faced with the agile and fast Imperial swordsman, put up a passive defense. That was why the Overlord was often used like a tortoise's shell. But right in that instant, the Overlord mech moved sideways. From raising of shields to its moving, it all looked like a hint that told the opponent, attacking is the right move. Yet it was a misstep. The Overlord mech struck its pike right out. Zoom! The Imperial swordsman was impaled and razed. The students who were watching and chatting suddenly stopped. Damn, just what was that? How was that possible? Boom! Anonymous, win, 5 seconds, just 5 seconds. Honduras's mech was killed in one strike. God, in that instant, Honduras did sense danger. It was a premonition that had developed after years of training. However, he didn't know what the problem was. By the time he reacted, it had already ended. Raising the shield and faking a movement, but moving aside to strike and attack. The judgment was impeccable. It could be said that Honduras was completely eaten up. Who was that? A master from Arbiter had come out to play. But with the Imperial swordsman's defensive abilities, how was it possible for a pike to impale it in one strike? It wasn't plausible even without the protective gear. Being sent flying was more probable. What was going on? What did you say? Honduras was taken down in a second. Who from Arbiter has challenged him? A nameless soldier? That's impossible. The Arbiters never hide their names. Impaled with one strike? How is that possible? Do you think Aslan mecha are made of paper? It was a normal pike, and even if full force had been used, the mech was most likely to be sent flying, not get impaled. The level of destructiveness was entirely different. But in the instant the move was made, the spear and the shield had come into contact with each other. It was not loud, but it was certainly forceful. The force of the spins was in complete control. Take a step back, tilt 90 degrees around, spin, and strike. This was the most fatal method of attack in all of the spear moves. Having won the match, Wang Jung was extremely pleased. He had not had such a good fight in a long time. Even though he got rid of the opponent in just one strike, that person had good reflexes and had put him in danger. It was too bad he was lagging just a little behind. Amongst the weapons that Bonehead introduced, this spiked sword was not one of them. It was included in one of the 18 weapons and required one to possess speed, accuracy, and dexterity. However, it was only useful on the surface. Wang Jung was getting ready to hit the iron when it was hot and fight another round to properly experience the Overlord when his Skylink rang. It was Yan Xiaoshu. Boss, are you having so much fun in Aslan you forgot about home? Is sister-in-law there? Said Yan Xiaoshu's slutty voice. She's not back yet. She should be back soon. Ha! All good things are worth waiting for. Try to be more understanding, boss. I heard that there are many foxy men in Aslan. You've got to protect Zissou and not let her get tricked. Even if you get sold off, Zissou would never get tricked. Ha, that's true. Neither of you are around, so I'm all alone and sad. Don't act pitiful. I know you. Tell me, what's up? Let's play. I've gone through too much lately, said Yan Xiaoshu. He was actually feeling lonely. What happened with Enmaya there was no right or wrong, but he had still been hurt. He had thought that his success could make him happy, but in actual fact, Mother N's change in attitude didn't bring anything. He had spent all his time learning and dealing with company matters, and when he got tired, he'd play for a round or two, but he still wasn't over it. Wang Jung didn't say much. He did not have much of an interest in CT, but if Yan Xiaoshu requested, he'd definitely play with him. He had known Yan Xiaoshu for many years, and there was no way he didn't know about Yan Xiaoshu's situation. This time around, he was taking a much longer time, which meant that he had truly invested himself in that relationship. Sigh, this was just a game that would end up hurting him. Even without speaking of Yan Xiaoshu and Enmei, his and Ana's future was also unclear. Even then, he couldn't stop it. If it was something that could be controlled or stopped, it wouldn't be love. Love was a strong word, but for a first relationship, a real relationship, Wang Jung wanted to pursue it without any second thoughts, without a care about how it would end. At least, for himself, he would not have any regrets in future. Wang Jung left the training room. There were too many leisure clubs in Aslan. They were all for free, and not many people were interested in this thing. Wang Jung left, and on the other end, Honduras was furious. How could there be anyone so shameless, running away after winning? He could have at least played a best of 3. Honduras's screams and wails came out from the training room. This was certainly a sign that told people to stay away. Wang Jung and Yan Xiaoshu entered a 2-player mode. King's operations are going rather smoothly. Oh, right, boss, this FLC seems to have a high opinion of us. To be honest, after going through the Margate and CT incident, I have no good feelings towards these monopolies anymore, but they are really sincere. So sincere that I feel worried," said Yan Xiaoshu. Businessmen were after profits, and he believed that this project would bring them a great profit, but he still felt weird about it. It was just that he was already in on it and couldn't back down. Plus, this money was life-saving. "You said they came to you on their own?" "Yes, think about it. How did they find me? I think it's odd. I had really thought they were a scam at first. What a weird thing to happen. But no matter what, operations are good right now. We've finally toughed through the tough times." Wang Jung nodded. "Just be careful. Either way, there was no problem with the contracts." Yan Xiaoshu had more considerations. Could a company that had newly emerged be more than meets the eyes? Perhaps they could even be laundering money or something of the sort. That would be the worst-case scenario, but he may have overthought things. After all, everything went according to legal procedures, and it couldn't possibly be that all the officials of the Solar System Federation were idiots. But Wang Jung thought of Old Merchant. If anybody would come to their aid, Old Merchant was the most likely one to do so. He was able to do so well after spending just a few years with Old Merchant, but what about Old Merchant himself? However, Old Merchant only made one-way communications. Only he could come to Wang Jung. He would have to ask him for his contact info the next time they meet. Wang Jung and Yan Xiaoshu entered the arena. It was a 5 versus 5 battle, and Yan Xiaoshu regained his zeal. This was the advantage of the internet, and that was, it was able to bring people closer together despite the distance. "Brothers, let's go up, shoulder to shoulder, and kill that noob there," Yan Xiaoshu said, full of vigor. "What are you doing? Charge, damn, it's true. Seems like it. There's no space behind the name, and it doesn't look like it's fake. Alive. Oh, God, it's really the legendary. I think so. What's going on? We're in the diamond rank, and there's actually a few platinum and gold players, and even some without ranks, this." They finished the conversation, and the few pilots rubbed their eyes furiously. The teammate had stopped speaking. "It's fake, isn't it? Why would he be here? I've just checked the ID out. It seems real. Damn it, what's there to fight? How did they come up with such a grouping? This is my rank-up match, it's inhumane. Alright, if you're killed by skeleton, even the system would take pity on you. Charge." Yes, a chance to play with an ace is hard to come by. Wang Jung hadn't gone on CT for a long time now. He had long forgotten about his situation there, but him forgetting about CT didn't mean that others forgot about him. Even Yan Xiaoshu had forgotten about his influence in court after he started managing King. Yan Xiaoshu had gotten to see the higher levels in the world. He felt that fame in CT was nothing and had forgotten about it. After a short outburst of shock and surprise, the party excitedly launched an attack on the other party. This was no longer a rhythm of winning while lying down, it was winning with one's eyes closed. So what if there were 5 diamond-ranked players? So what if there were 50 coming at them? But those on the opposite team were not letting it go so easily. A strike overhead and a strike under. Moreover, fighting with a legendary character felt great. Wang Jung picked the Overlord at random. And it felt awkward. Perhaps it was because the feeling of using a real mech was too good, and using this afterwards was too awkward indeed. It was no wonder a true expert would never play court, it ruined the feeling of piloting an actual mech. But after some adjustment, battling was not a problem. They were directly faced with Glory Rider. He was diamond ranked, but he was so nervous, he had started perspiring. Stay calm, you've got to stay calm. Holding on for just a couple of seconds would be considered a win. Zoom. The Overlord spear struck. He spun around and Chicken Run had made a quick run, taking a huge slide step back in retreat. Wang Jung followed up. The Overlord struck again and charged, but the opponent had escaped again. Damn it. Wang Jung felt gloomy. His rhythm was off. Even his attacks felt weird. The Overlord had displayed its flaws from head to toe. It would not do if Wang Jung used the feeling of piloting the Overlord in real life in court. However, the previous feeling was just too blissful. He couldn't just forget it like that. A mech like the Overlord had its problems, and that is, if he missed his attack, he would be vulnerable to a counterattack. But, even though the few diamond ranks had clearly seen the flaws, they were still completely focused on hiding and avoiding. Even Yan Xiaoshu saw the flaw, but the opponents would not take the offensive no matter what. Eventually, Wang Jung killed them like a blind cat taking on dead rats. In 10 odd minutes, the opponents were all taken down. Their teammates' congratulations and admiration came in non-stop. Their opponents were ecstatic. They'd held on for such a long time, which really was something to celebrate. Boss, you're rather merciful, but the pretense was too obvious. Yan Xiaoshu chuckled. There were so many missed hits. Wang Jung stared blankly and then smiled bitterly. I really didn't put on an act. I've been training in the Overlord mech recently, and the real thing is very different from the virtual one. I haven't gotten used to the rhythm in the game, and I was still wondering why they hadn't retaliated. Yan Xiaoshu gaped. Chicken Run was very glad too. Skeleton was a good man, giving him face because he knew the huge disparity of levels between them. Retaliate? He was not dumb. If he were to counter-attack during those so-called missed hits, he would definitely be killed right away. Damn, he was smart. The opponents had even sent a thank you note, which put Yan Xiaoshu and Wang Jung between laughter and tears. This was perhaps the legendary air of a king. It was formidable indeed, making the enemy bow without putting up a fight. Wang Jung and Yan Xiaoshu had lost their interest in ray-matching, so they chatted about what they were up to recently. Zhang Shan, Zhang Runan, and Meng Tian were furiously training, and it was said that Meng Ao had given them special treatment, strengthening their training. Chen Shu and Yao Ailun were doing even better. They had become representatives of the physics department and even became the president and vice president of the Ares College CT Club. It was said that there was a huge group of elder sisters wooing Chen Shu, but it was just that Chen Shu had sworn not to have someone older than him. He had to find a younger girl, no matter what. The thing was, even the newcomers were older than him. The poor child probably had a phobia of older girls. But, to others, it was certainly a blessing. Yao Island was going down hard on the younger brother recently. Yet Chen Shu really hoped his 3 elder sisters would get married quickly so that he could become a real man. Wang Jung and Yan Xiaoshu roared in laughter. Wang Jung also told Yan Xiaoshu interesting stories about Aslan, including how he had beaten a rich man's son from Arbiter, of course. Yan Xiaoshu jumped up and down in excitement. Too bad he wasn't in Aslan. But as long as King Corp did well, they would sooner or later enter Aslanian markets. Not just Aslan. Becoming a giant in the Milky Way was no mere dream either. 2 years ago, they were just 2 kids sitting on the hills behind the school, talking about their lives and their dreams. Back then, they thought it would all just be a dream. But now, perhaps the dream simply wasn't that far from their reach. Sometimes you just have to grapple without thinking. Luck would only appear after you put up a fight. After chatting with Yan Xiaoshu for some time, Wang Jung was in a good mood. The further from home, the more dear a brother's voice would sound. He turned on his Skylink and noticed that there were a few messages. All from Lin Weiyan. Wang Jung, I'm looking for you. Why aren't you answering your Skylink? I'm getting angry. I am really angry now. I will ruin you. All right. I will be magnanimous and not be angry at you. Wang Jung, you are a baddie. Wang Jung was between laughter and tears. He had been happily chatting with Yan Xiaoshu and didn't notice her messages. That lass was too impatient. Your Royal Highness, what is the matter? Wang Jung sent out a text message. Moments later, a reply came. The princess is furious, she wants to cut all ties with you. Oh, if that's the case, my ears will get to enjoy peace, that's great. You baddie, I shouldn't have bothered with you and let them lock you up. Lin Weyan was so mad, she wanted to sink her little canines into him. Haha, just kidding. Thank you. What's up, I was training and didn't see your message. No wonder everybody enjoyed teasing children, it was pretty fun indeed. Too bad nobody knew. Or they would scream, damn it. You're mocking the princess. You will have to be caned and paraded around in public. Honduras was speechless. The opponent had really slipped off after winning one round, and worst of all, he never came back, leaving him hanging there for 3 whole hours. Honduras was furious. How could someone so skilled be such a coward? Just who was it who provoked him? An arbiter. It was both the most likely but also the least likely possibility. The arbiters had just gotten into trouble. They were most likely to retaliate. But given the arbiters' characteristics, they would not keep such a low profile if they had won. How odd. There were just 3 more days before Aina returned to Mungtalis. It was a piece of good news Lin Weyan had brought. But Lin Weyan's request was really giving Wang Zheng a terrible headache. Lin Weyan wanted Wang Zheng to record the new single, Boundless Seas and Skies, with her, but Wang Zheng didn't want to. His voice was an amateur among the amateurs. Singing with Lin Weyan would be asking for trouble. But the princess, Her Royal Highness, had used her powers of clinginess, she wouldn't take no for an answer. Carrot and the stick, coaxing and cajoling. While, to put it in one sentence, if Wang Zheng refused, he would not have time to learn and study at the Royal College. Left without a choice, Wang Zheng could only squeeze out 2 hours a day for Lin Weyan to do the song recording. And Angela was the chauffeur assigned to ferry Wang Zheng specially. Angela complied without complaints, but she had her reservations about it. Finally getting rid of Lin Weyan, Wang Zheng hurriedly rushed to a hometown gathering. A hometown gathering on Aslan was, of course, the gathering of students from the solar system. Even though Wang Zheng and friends were just exchange students, they were also considered part of the group. It was only natural that they had been invited. Yi Zisu had something on and couldn't attend the gathering. Wang Zheng thought that it wouldn't be nice if he didn't attend it either. After all, Earth had to have a representative no matter what. This gathering had been organized by the chairperson of the Solar System Federation Townsmen Society, Zhou Hang. He was a 4th-year student at the Aslan Royal College and was considered a senior to all of them. Essentially, all students from the Solar System Federation would contact him upon arriving here. Rely on parents at home, but rely on seniors when studying abroad. Zhou Hang was a member of the Royal College's student union. He wore a golden trident badge on his chest. Only members who were in the Student Union Council were allowed to wear it. Together with the thistle flower of the Autonomy Union, and the rose coat of arms of the Discipline Committee, it was one of the 3 main icons that represented the Royal College. This was, on the one hand, a regular meeting, and on the other, a welcome to those who had just arrived. Anyone who could make it to Royal College, regardless of whether they could stay, were an important resource. As the chairperson of the society, Zhou Hang knew this well. In fact, there were many things for the chairperson to do, but he always took things in his stride and did them willingly, all for the future. Ever since he showed up, Su Sa had ditched Dale aside to follow Zhou Hang around, behaving all sweet and lovable. Dale was depressed. He had never thought that this girl would switch sides as quickly as flipping a switch. Gilbert and Song Naina, on the other hand, kept much lower profiles. Everybody else here were seniors. Zhou Hang took pretty good care of Su Sa, his countryman from the moon. He had provided ample support on Aslan in the past few days, something a rich man like Dale could never do. That money of his was just a floating cloud in Aslan Royal College. Moreover, a girl like Su Sa didn't want money. A stage and a better network were more important than that. Zhou Hang's heart was not with Su Sa. He kept glancing at the door, hoping that that figure would appear, but he was disappointed. Yi Zisu did not show up. The heiress of OMG, a major stakeholder of King Corp, and a genius mech designer. Zhou Hang had taken quite an interest in her. Unlike others, Yi Zisu could stay on Aslan given her situation. But it was clear that Yi Zisu would not join Aslan, and neither did she need to do so. For her, She had no need for all those things that were important to others. And what he could provide, Yi Zixu had no need of, at all. Zhou Hang had paid close attention. Yi Zixu very quickly integrated into Aslan's environment. As for Wang Zheng, he got into trouble the moment he arrived. It was said that he wreaked havoc at a police station and had Xiao Fei show up to resolve the situation. He couldn't see what was so good about that lad that Professor Xiao Fei doted so much on him. If he was good-looking, so be it. But he was average at best, while Dr. Xiao Fei was a heavenly beauty. It was simply unfathomable. Wang Zheng had just gotten here, and he could sense that everyone looked at him as though they were looking at a beast. He was puzzled. What happened? Why is everybody looking at me like that? Wang Zheng asked, taking a seat beside Gilbert. Gilbert was an honest person. News about your fight with Clinton and you wreaking havoc at a police station were huge. How do you think people will look at you? Wang Zheng almost fell off his chair. Seriously, it was clear that he had encountered a gangster and was treated unfairly. How did it become him wreaking havoc? The rumors had gone too far. Seeing Gilbert's expression, Wang Zheng couldn't be bothered to explain. He didn't care how others thought of him anyway. Wang Zheng, that is Chairman Zhou Hang, the boss of our hometown society. He's from the moon, a member of the student union. The only person from the Solar System Federation who got into the student union. He is a great man. Gilbert's eyes were filled with admiration. He was very pleased that he could stay on Aslan for some time. He felt as if he was here to admire the great people of all walks of life. Of course, to him, Wang Zheng deserved admiration too. Not many rash men would dare to fight others and cause trouble on Aslan. Well, he had a good teacher, and there was nothing to compete with that. Upon seeing Wang Zheng, Zhou Hang took the initiative. Wang Zheng, nice to finally meet you. I am Zhou Hang, the chairman of the hometown society. Feel free to come to me if you face any problems on Aslan. Wang Zheng stood up and shook his hand. I hope Senior will treat me kindly. Ha. I can only help with the small issues. If it's big trouble, I can't help, Zhou Hang said jokingly. Wang Zheng shrugged. It was an accident. Zhou Hang did not delve into it. He knew very well what sort of person Clinton was. It was too bad Clinton had offended the wrong man. But he didn't think that Xiao Fei from Earth had such a high level of influence on Aslan. There were more than 30 people who attended the gathering. The overall feeling was one that was warm and welcoming. Even though they were not emotional about meeting up, one could sense that they were all willing to stick up for one another. Brothers and sisters who have just arrived, welcome. We came here just slightly before you did and can share our experiences. My advice is for all of you to join a society as soon as you can. Only then can you integrate into the Aslan Royal College. The opportunity is rare. Please don't just stand around and look and let such a good opportunity go to waste. Said Zhou Hang. Chairman, how do we join? Su Sa asked charmingly. That tempting look of hers made her very lovable and made others want to get close to her. Dale, who was watching from the side, was fuming. Send your information and the society you're interested in to me, and I will submit it on your behalf. Zhou Hang said, smiling. Wang Zheng had good feelings towards this chairperson of their hometown association. At least he was doing something real and not pretending or acting cocky. The meal was sponsored by the society. Societies in Aslan had different levels of rights and authority according to status. Wang Zheng got to meet quite a few people in the gathering. Regardless of which part of the solar system they came from, they were a family here. It was just that Wang Zheng could sense everybody were living on edge here at Aslan, as if they were inherently inferior, as if they were constantly trying to get into others' good books. Take Zhou Hang for instance. He might have been the chairperson of the society. He gave Wang Zheng the feeling that he lived his life with his head bowed. But at the very least, he didn't behave high and mighty in front of his own, while bowing low to others. An exchange student who wanted to cause all sorts of trouble like Wang Zheng was rare. At night, the Aslan Royal College gave out a unique, charming air. Both foreign students and Aslanians were enjoying themselves and relieving their stress under the night sky. Every society's activities came to a peak after nightfall. Basketball, soccer, tennis, fencing, judo. These sports societies were particularly active at night. Similarly, Aslan's Discipline Committee and the Thistle Flower Autonomy Union were also getting busy, coordinating and managing the relations between all societies. Arranging the bookings of venues, competitions, as well as managing society's funds, were all taken care of by these two groups. Giali, the top beauty of the physics department, an icy cold beauty, member of the fencing society. At the same time, a member of the Sword Shield Rose Discipline Committee. She was dealing with a funding application from the Mecha Society, and the one standing right in front of her was Bai Yuyan. Bai Yuyan blinked. I say, Giali, do you have to be that serious? Take a good look at who's standing in front of you. It's me, would I play tricks in front of you? Giali didn't even look up. She continued to assess all the items in the application, saying, the queen ice cream from last time. Bai Yuyan felt embarrassed. It was warm, so I had to get something cooling for everybody. Usual products are fine. Or could it be that Queen has become a common brand? Hey, don't mind such details, it was just that once. Giali continued to assess the items. A few minutes later, she looked up. The application has no issues. Giali put her digital signature on the application and stamped it with the Rose coat of arms logo, indicating that it had passed her assessment. Bai Yuyan received the digital certification. With that, she could withdraw the funds from the student union. With that all done, Bai Yuyan collapsed onto Giali. Icy cold beauty, accompany your sister for a meal, won't you? Did you know, I am most afraid of loneliness. You're not short of me as a friend. Iya, is my darling consort jealous? The look in Giali's eyes was like a cold, piercing sword. Her stare made Bai Yuyan's hair stand. Ahem, pretty lady, would you accompany me for a meal? You haven't had dinner either, right? Knowing when to lie low, when to walk tall, and when to put on a show was Bai Yuyan's specialty. Giali shook her head. Every item had its weakness. Actually, with her cold and aloof personality, she did not want to get too close to Bai Yuyan at first. But Bai Yuyan could always find a way to make her let her tag along to do all sorts of things. At first, it was just drinking, then eating, then later, making interstellar trips together. Sometimes, she really wondered if Bai Yuyan's ability X was making friends. It seemed like anybody could be her friend. Oh, right, Giali, milady, my purse has been feeling rather shy lately. Shy my ass, so you're just trying to get a free meal. So just buy me a meal. Bai Yuyan blinked shyly, using her eyes to make a move, but evidently on the wrong person. I'll lend you money, but the meal is on you. Giali expressed an emotion. It was a rare occurrence. It's all the same. Bai Yuyan's mood lifted right away. Teasing the icy cold Giali and making her react emotionally was one of her favorite hobbies. But of course, she had just bought a limited edition handbag the day before and really had no money for a meal. Although plenty of men would buy her a meal, she'd much rather take advantage of Giali. But when they arrived at their food place, Bai Yuyan was unable to feel happy. A street stall? She didn't expect Giali to bring her to a street stall outside school. Hey, don't you see that the look in people's eyes and the atmosphere around here turning odd? How could pretty girls like them dine at such a place? Beggars can't be choosers. Yo, Giali, you brought a friend today? What do you want to eat? Bai Yuyan almost couldn't keep her mouth closed. Why did the uncle from the street stall seem to know Giali so well? The usual. Give her the same thing. Giali nodded. She dragged Bai Yuyan along, found a seat, and sat down. Why didn't I know that you come here often? Bai Yuyan showed her a hurtful expression. There was a side of Giali that she didn't know. Not often. I only come here when I feel like getting supper, it's more relaxing here. You're really nothing like an Aslanian. Bai Yuyan rolled her eyes. What only, she told the boss, the usual. Aslanians are not mathematical formulae. All right. Oh, let me tell you something interesting. I met an eccentric person from the solar system. Earth. Yeah, an exchange student from Earth. I wanted to introduce him to you. Who knows, given your personality, you might get along well with him. But he had no interest in you, my goodness. To think there are men who are not interested in having an Aslanian girlfriend, and I did tell him it was you, the belle of the physics department. He even looked reluctant. Don't you find it odd? Bai Yuyan was obviously using that to tease Jiali in an attempt to see other expressions than her usual icy cold look. But she had failed spectacularly. Jiali looked coldly at her. The solar system weirdo you're talking about is Wang Zheng, isn't it? Crack. Bai Yuyan almost dislocated her lower jaw. How did you know? Jiali looked at Bai Yuyan as though she was retarded. Seems like your brain still can't make it. Hey, that's making a personal attack. Xiao Fei's student. Awardee of the Greatest Contribution of the Year award. And also the team leader of Solar Systems IG. P-thump. Bai Yuyan's heart pounded wildly. Ah, so many titles, seems pretty great. Why, are you really interested in him? Not interested. I only know of him as a talent who has a gift in physics. If he could stay on Aslan, it would do good for the development of our country. All right, I know you're a member of Her Royal Highness staff, but no need to be so serious. Making contributions for the nation aside, have you never thought of enjoying your youth for a bit? Plus, if he is really that good, just make him a foreign student here and it'd be settled. Bai Yuyan blinked. There were no talents in the world who didn't want to stay on Aslan. In fact, the more of a genius they were, the more they'd want to stay on Aslan. Because Aslan was the only place where geniuses had room to exhibit their talents. Jiali shook her head. He may not be interested. Jiali did not merely look calm. The way she did things was also absolutely calm and rational. Xiao Fei and Wang Zheng were both on Jiali's radar. Wang Zheng thought that Jiali had turned around because of Kai Muya, but she was actually looking at him. From the intel she had gathered, Xiao Fei and Wang Zheng were here only for their project and had no intentions of staying on Aslan. Really, he seems extremely arrogant. Being famous in youth is nothing. Who knows if he will become a nobody in future? Yi Zisu, however, is really good. Bai Yuyan boasted shamelessly. That was her personality. She was used to firing shots and running her mouth off in front of people she was closest to. Jiali nodded in all seriousness. I thought so too. That's why I plan on introducing him to the sword shield rose for him to observe. Thump. Bai Yuyan fell onto the tabletop unglamorously. What did you say? Recommend Wang Zheng to join the sword shield rose. You can't be serious. When have I not been serious? You don't have to do that to help him experience Aslan, there are many other ways. This is the fastest way. He's an exchange student, so his time on Aslan won't be long. Can I advise you against that? Bai Yuyan rolled her eyes, but inside, she knew that by saying it, Jiali had made up her mind. Kai Muya crashed Wang Zheng's dorm. Student Little Chi's eyes were all red. Oh, damn, you stay in this dorm room all alone? Wang Zheng nodded. Is there a problem? Isn't it all one person per room? Of course there's a problem, a huge problem. I share a dorm with others. What did you do to deserve staying in a room alone? And the best dorm at that. Damn, there's even a coffee machine. God, this is unfair. Kai Muya whined and wailed about his displeasure nonstop. Is your father a prominent figure in the solar system? You're overthinking it, Wang Zheng said, shaking his head. Lin Weiyan was the one who arranged the dormitory. Seemed like the lass had given him extra special treatment. He had thought that it was the norm for everyone to have their own room given the powers of Aslan. No wonder he felt too comfortable. It's not that I'm overthinking, it's just that I can't find any other explanation. Maybe I'm just lucky. Maybe they didn't have any other vacant rooms. Wang Zheng smiled. Just then, his Skylink blinked. A red notification light. The message had actually come from the Royal College's system, sent to him via the student ID installed in his Skylink. Kai Mai's eyes were very sharp. He caught the red light at once. A message from the college's system? Is it the student union or the autonomous union? Wang Zheng was slightly surprised too. He opened the message and Kai Muya shamelessly popped his head over to take a look. He mumbled the contents of the message aloud. As recommended by Special Committee member Jiali, we would like to invite student Wang Zheng to come to the Sword Shield Rose 3rd Administration Hall for a preliminary interview at noon tomorrow. It was the Aslan Royal Sword Shield Rose Discipline Committee. Upon finishing reading the message, Kai Muya was stunned. What was going on? What sort of rhythm was this? C.G. Ali had recommended Wang Jung to join the Sword Shield Rosé. Why? Kai Muya felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Was this Wang Jung standing before him an illegitimate son of the solar system's chairman? Even then, why would C.G. Ali recommend him? C.G. Ali, who was also known as the Iceberg of Aslan. Student Wang Jung, am I your best friend here on Aslan or not? Kai Muya said rather sternly. Yes. Big brother, idol, tell me, how did you hit C.G. Ali up? You only made eye contact. Kai Muya hugged Wang Jung by his thigh agitatedly. Wang Jung quickly pulled Kai Muya up. I don't know her at all. It may be the influence of teacher Xiao Fei. But I don't even have time to attend classes, so how could I ever have time to join a society? Thinking about it, he also had to help Lin Weiyan record a song. Other than classes, he had to sneak off to train at the mech department as well. He had no time. That's the Aslan Discipline Committee. They don't invite non-Aslanians to join them so easily. If you join them, you'll become an elite, an idol, a key figure. Good God, there would be no problem hitting up on babes with the badge of the Sword Shield Rose Club. Kai Muya said, drooling. Hey, I have no interest in managing people. Neither do I like being managed by people, Wang Jung said coolly. Kai Muya was full of respect. He gave a thumbs up and said, a real man, no doubt. But very quickly, Kai Muya shook his head. Actually, the rest are still all right. Most importantly, joining the discipline committee would mean an opportunity to get close to Princess Aina, or even speak with her. If you're not going, recommend me. Speaking of that, Kai Mai's eyes turned starry again. Wang Jung was stunned. That's right, how did he forget about that? Even though Aina was also a student of the Royal College, her learning obviously did not take place together with the rest. Instead, she had royal teachers who taught her separately. Due to having to visit foreign countries so frequently, her pace of learning and the arrangement of her classes were also different from that of others. Under normal circumstances, ordinary students rarely had a chance to meet Princess Aina. But the student union and the discipline committee were different. As they were in charge of the autonomous ruling and operations of the school, there were many occasions where they had opportunities to communicate with Princess Aina. Since they had to lay low and keep things a secret, he would need to have a suitable position. It would be best if he could attain that on his own and give Aina less trouble. Oh, if that's the case, what do I have to prepare? Kai Muya lost his balance and stumbled. Damn, didn't you just say you don't like managing others and don't like being managed? Have you got any principles? Wang Jung patted Kai Muya on the back. A real man knows when to lie low and when to stand tall. Aslan's physics department had done a great job in integrating space theory and materials in order to speed up the conversion process. However, after listening to some lessons, Wang Jung quickly discovered that Aslan seemed more interested in the microscopic spaces, which was somewhat inconsistent with the current mainstream focus on macrophysics. Someone else would have found this focus inconsistent and irrelevant, but not Wang Jung. When he was learning under Old Merchant also spoke highly about microphysics. Then Old Merchant would sigh and mention how development trends would be determined more by the needs of the military, more so than that of the common civilians. The history of human science and technology was actually a transformation from military technology to civil technology. Although most scientists may have had their original intentions designed for civilian use, they almost definitely have to start their research with a military intent in practice. It was just that Wang Jung was very curious about Aslan's direction of research. Jamal Cocker, an expert in this field, discussed the topic in great detail today. The students were very excited because in the past, teachers rarely had expertise in this field. Wang Jung, I'm a bit curious today. Why is it that you look in my direction so often? Is it because I am too handsome? Kai Muya actually went to take a look at the mirror. As we all know, the Atlantis Republic possesses unique technology. After over 100 years of research, we still could not deduce how they have developed it. However, this is about to change. Our Aslanian scientists have come up with a new approach to delve into technology from a microscopic perspective. Cocker laughed and looked at the audience. What do you think about this proposal? C.G. Ali, what do you think? C.G. Ali stood up. Teacher, I personally think that our civil technology has its own characteristics and excellent techniques which we can learn from instead of foregoing our uniqueness. Atlantis technology is too focused and is not suitable for widespread adoption by humans. Cocker nodded. CG ideas are good. We really shouldn't imitate others, but the reality is that, in some areas, Atlantis' unique technology is too ahead of ours. This is not an imitation. We must achieve the same level of advancement as Atlantis and, ultimately, try to surpass it. CG did not answer that question. She felt that human beings should develop in their own way to go above and beyond. Although it was only the tip of the iceberg, Wang Zheng, from his connections with Xie Yuxin, had already understood that the Aslanian people had already started their research. The microscopic space, Atlantis runes, Ability X, and Solitude. Wang Zheng suddenly had a thought. Could it be that the Aslanian people wanted to use the microscopic method to bring their Ability X on par to that of Atlantis runic technology? Or would it be even more powerful? The idea was ingenious, but how could one implement the technology and obtain the right materials? Interesting. With a teacher like Old Merchant, Wang Zheng had an overarching perspective of the situation. Things were really something else this time around. Aslan really deserved their reputation. Cocker also called out several other people, only to get unsatisfactory and shallow replies. After a pause, Cocker's eyes once again fell on Wang Zheng. Wang Zheng, do you have any questions? Cocker suddenly laughed. Students who were sharp would realize the sudden change in attitude. Wang Zheng stood up. Although marvelous, the idea is theoretically difficult to realize. What material are we going to use? Can the spiritual seal of Atlantis runes be replaced by mechanical engravings? Suddenly, Wang Zheng himself found the answer. The entire classroom exploded and Cocker was paralyzed. How could this be possible? Aslan's scientists had discussed in countless circles before creating this solution, yet this man had actually seen through it instantly? Did someone tell him in advance? But looking at Wang Zheng now, was this notion really inferred by him? Wang Zheng, you have an unrealistic idea. If mechanical engravings can replace spiritual carvings, we would have already done it. CG had a different opinion. The sexy, nonchalant-looking Aslanian woman looked glisteningly at Wang Zheng. Wang Zheng was not hesitating. Anything impossible can be made possible. There is also a way to mimic runic engravings in microphysics. Normally, mechanical engravings cannot produce spiritual fluctuations. However, the focus should be on producing the right material, which can allow for this possibility. The engravings can also be supported by artificial substances, such as man-made minerals that would greatly enhance the likelihood of success. This would allow mankind to replicate the effect of Atlantis runic engravings without spiritual force. Wang Zheng was more and more convinced that this was possible. Cocker was completely shocked. He had never seen the vice president of the Academy of Sciences, Alvin, admire a young man so much. He expressed suspicion, especially since Wang Zheng was just a student, even though he was a student of Xiao Fei. Alvin's admiration was not directed at Xiao Fei, but for this young man who had crazy insights into physics. It was as though he could predict the future. The whispers in the classroom were all shocked by Wang Zheng's bold conjecture. Wang Zheng, have you considered staying in Aslan? I can apply for you on your behalf. Cocker was also a physics lover, and he discussed the issue openly in class. Most scientists did not care about these details and focused more on one's competence. A strange flicker sparked in CG eyes. Cocker supported Wang Zheng's statement. She was very familiar with Cocker, who was in charge of important research in Aslan's Science Academy. Based on her deductions, Aslan was doing just what Wang Zheng said. Wang Zheng smiled helplessly. Thank you for the offer. I haven't thought about it yet. Haha, if you are willing to stay, I think many people will be very happy. Cocker knew this kid's reputation on campus, and many top scientists knew about Wang Zheng. He had previously ignored stories that he had heard earlier and thought that it was just the elders taking care of the newcomers. Now that he'd seen things for himself, he realized that he had underestimated the guy. Kai Mai's mouth was agape and was looking at Wang Zheng as though he was a wild creature. What kind of strange international issue was this turning into? He had actually refused the teacher's invitation. What the heck was with this kid? Was he really just a simple disciple? One should know that even if Xiao Fei was in front of a character like Cocker, she would not have much influence. In this community, besides having achievements, It took time to accumulate necessary experience. Every scientist had to earn an achievement to establish his or her historical status today. Xiao Fei was still too early for that. Wang Zheng was also feeling that the Earth was really lagging behind. If you looked at the scientists of the Aslan Royal College, they were way ahead in terms of strength and ambition. Even more so, he could understand Xiao Fei's mentality. Earth needed them. As the birthplace of human civilization, Earth needed to rise, and it certainly would. Jiali was obviously in deep thought. It seemed that her recommendation was even more sensible than what she initially thought. Muya, what is with your expression? You are glowing. Muya licked his lips and hoped that the beauty would give him a response, but Jiali had left. Honduras had been slacking for an entire day. He was waiting for the Bast Road, who disappeared after winning. How could someone of his caliber be sneak attacked? He had seen the battle replay countless times, and the opponent definitely was out to get him. This was not a victory based on true skills. What he was most irritated by was that this battle had become the hot match of the week. This was simply injusticia, pinning the dignified vice chief of fencing onto the board of shame. He had to get his game back before the end of the week. The room he opened was limited to Overlord Mecha only. His opponent would definitely only use an Overlord Mech as well. Meanwhile, Wang Zheng was really worried that his card might have been activated after the hoo-ha he had caused. It looked like he really did not have to worry. Meanwhile, Honduras's challenge was on the training room's battle announcement board. The guy who attacked Maya, play another game with me if you were a man, Honduras. Scrolling through the screen, Wang Zheng could not help but laugh. He left hurriedly, asked time, but now he could satisfy his opponent with another match. Honduras was doing training aimlessly. His opponent did not appear sincere. He not only issued an announcement, but also notified the council about the rematch. It seemed that his opponent was from one of the council parties. How strange, who could that guy be? At this point, the system prompted, "Your challenge is accepted. Do you want to start?" Honduras jumped up in excitement. Finally, boy, finally you are here. It is not good to run after winning. Today, let's do a best of 3. No more running away, said Honduras excitedly. Wang Zheng smiled. No problem. The Imperial Swordsman was in full swing. This time, Honduras was mentally prepared. He was not going to underestimate his opponent again. Wang Zheng instead maintained the calm composure of an overlord. He wanted to understand the fighting powers of the Imperial Swordsman, Aslan's highly mobile mech. Honduras did not use the standard defensive stance because he really wanted to beat his opponent. The Imperial Swordsman marched forward towards Wang Zheng. He raised his sword and hacked down at the overlord with every step. Once the Imperial Swordsman started its offense, one could only defend. Wang Zheng quickly blocked with his shield and spear. Wang Zheng's overlord mech possessed many problems in actual combat. It was heavy and slow. It was a model despised by other individuals. With a solid foundation for fencing attacks, the flexibility and sharp attacks of the Imperial Swordsman were fully exploited. Strangely, his opponent seemed to always be able to defend against it. After a series of attacks, Honduras felt depressed. His opponent was like a big turtle, fully armored and too difficult to penetrate. Honduras, can you not even deal with an overlord mech? Don't be so anxious, I have not even started. This overlord is interesting. He seems slow, but he can accurately block every attack. At this rate, the attacker will suffer. Honduras knew this, of course. Assassin-type mecha were all about assaulting the opponent. However, continuous attacks would soon open up more flaws. The Imperial Swordsman took a jump backwards, reorganizing his rhythm and looking for an opening. Wang Zheng shifted his shield slightly. His opponent would never find an opportunity to attack if he remained so guarded. Just a subtle gap was exposed and Honduras's pupils dilated. This was the moment. The engine roared and the high-intensity engine of the Imperial Swordsman revved, bursting forward at lightning speed in an instant. Wow! His long, pointed sword headed straight for the overlord, using one of Honduras's unique techniques. The essence of this sword technique was a quick and accurate thrust. So long as a gap was exposed, it would penetrate the opponent. Booza booma! At that instant, the overlord's spear parried the long sword. Honduras felt as though he had been hit by a maglev vehicle. It was an upfront clash. The Imperial sword bounced back due to the impact. Honduras's reaction was also extremely fast. He took advantage of the backwards momentum to retreat before quickly launching yet another attack. However, the Imperial swordsman was not a brute force mech. The Overlord advantage was force, but the speed could be too slow, similar to a tortoise racing. Wang Zheng's Overlord had finally taken the chance to move. Sky rocket cannon. Honduras was dumbfounded. His opponent was treating him like a pig. To use the Sky Rocket Canona, a foolish and daunting trick that was the most tasteless technique amongst the Overlord repertoire. Even the students in the crowd laughed at the Overlord's slow build-up to release the cannon. However, at the next moment, everyone's jaws dropped. What in the world was this? The Overlord did not rise into the sky, but leapt upwards at an angle before instantly bouncing off the ground with the momentum. The explosion of the cannon intensities was only at half strength, and while the engine could still control the pressure, it created a scene where the Overlord moved extremely quickly in a parabolic curve. Booma, the Overlord headed straight for the Imperial swordsman. With a loud explosion, the Imperial swordsman, despite having activated the energy shield, was knocked backwards. The spear followed, slamming right into Hema. In less than 3 seconds, the energy shield burst, and the Imperial swordsman was once again pierced by the spear. Some people who were training stopped and looked at the training room screen. What were they seeing? Honduras was beaten up like a dog. Who was this Overlord pilot who could actually use the mech so skillfully? Was it Arbiter's IG captain? This was already god level. This level of control, that accurate judgment, were heaven-defying. Honduras was speechless. The scenes that happened seconds ago were replaying again and again in his head. F***ck. At this moment, he suddenly realized that the other party had previously exposed a flaw intentionally. With the Overlord pilot's level of skill, he would never have made such a rookie mistake like exposing a flaw. He was just baiting him in. Bastard, he was played like a kid. He had been tricked. This level of control and strength with the Overlord mech would take at least 3 years or more to attain. He simply could not compete with him. Are we still continuing? Wang Zheng asked. There was no need for a second battle. He had already thoroughly read his opponent's strength and pattern. I'm not your opponent, but our fencing club won't give up, Honduras said, as though the battle was made in honor of the fencing society. Wang Zheng shrugged nonchalantly. The advantages and disadvantages of the Overlord were still too obvious. This was not a mech that possessed great advantages. This was still a flaw manageable in one-on-one battles, but the slow speed would be a great disadvantage in group battles. Wang Zheng decided to try another mech. He opened the search engine to check out empty mecha. Although the popular ones were mostly occupied, he could do with a less popular model. Honduras was rushing toward the practice room of the Overlord pilot who had beaten him. He wanted to have a good look at who his opponent was. At this point, Wang Zheng was strolling towards another practice room. He was feeling frustrated at the Islanian authorities because he only had access to older mech models. Even though the newer ones were available, he had limited access. It seems that Kai Muya had truly been too nice and had taken his perceived skills into consideration. It took a while before Wang Zheng chanced upon an empty training room. A mech by the Manalasuo Empire, Golden Wheel. Manalasuo had always been competing with Aslan. Although neighbors, the contrast between the two empires was quite obvious. As the Aslan Empire grew mightier, bringing tremendous pressure to Manalasuo, they had started developing their own mecha to strengthen their national power. This Golden Wheel mech was created during this period. The designer was very creative, to say the least. Their original intention was to be innovative, unique, and to create a mech that possessed supreme lethality. The Golden Wheel had arms equipped with 2 special, golden wheels, made of premier gold compounds. These golden wheels could rotate at high speeds to produce powerful tear wounds and serve as a temporary distraction for another attack. In close combat, the killing power of the 2 rotating wheels was also amazing. The idea was undoubtedly quite good. The Golden Wheel had been launched into full production as a result. Some technical problems had been overcome one by one, and they had used it for actual combat to prove its viability. However, the problem lay in actual combat. Recovery time was needed after the Golden Wheel's spinning attacks, and attacking consecutively was quite difficult. This process to throw the wheels repeatedly was smoothened after numerous practices and required special guidance. This, as a result, made the mech hard to pilot. It was reported that Manalasuo would award the title of machinist to one who could pilot this mech effectively. The control of the golden wheels was quite difficult to grasp. When the golden wheels of the mech arched back to the mech for recovery, they would produce significant momentum when caught, which would make it difficult to quickly launch another attack in quick succession. It would also cause the pilot to spend significant effort and strain in order to receive the wheels. Furthermore, if it was done improperly, the mech might lose its balance, and that would be fatal in a battle. In the mecha world, there was a saying that if one could attack twice, they should not merely attack once. One should not waste their effort. Since the pilot had limited energy, to waste valuable energy on the release and recovery of weapons did not conform to the basic principle of mech design. The actual combat strength of the mech as a result was extremely poor, and the golden wheel had caused Manalasuo to seem like a joke in the international community. The development was extremely expensive too, and thus the mech was not mass-produced. However, Aslan still collected such a mech. The performance of this mech was frankly very good. This method of attack was also quite creative and worth learning from. Aslanians were really something. Whether they were opponents or friends, they could put aside their pride and learn with an open mind to become more and more powerful. Wang Zheng was not picky with mech models. He was interested in any novel mecha, and the more difficult it was to pilot, the better. Golden Wheel Battle Goda. This name was quite domineering. Entering the battle room, it felt like the mech had not been used for a long time. The exterior of the golden wheel matched its name. Two gold, X-shaped wheels with diameters of 120 centimeters were hung on the two shoulders. Each intersection was intricately combined. It was said that the designers took a long time designing the golden wheel. The radian and the sharp edges had to be designed carefully to achieve a swift kill when thrown. However, the design team was indeed too complacent. Strong mecha were useless if they could not be controlled by people. Looking at the sleeping golden wheel, Wang Zheng gently patted its armor. This was not just any ordinary mech. In fact, the surface treatment of the armor could reveal the fineness of this mech. This mech felt smooth and looked beautiful despite the extremely faint wrinkles and scratch marks. A sleeping golden wheel. Chen Shu also gave a detailed introduction to this mech. The evaluation showed that the mech was not popular as few could understand it. The quest for perfection had always failed to deliver good results. You never knew how good a mech was, unless you took it for a ride. Wang Zheng entered the pilot seat and felt the fusion of the G material around him. The difference between this and other mech could be felt. However, considering that it was barely used, the material was still easy to work with. Maybe it was due to the fact that it was not a popular model and few people interfaced with it. By the looks of it, it was only experimented with by curious onlookers. The roar of the engine was equally powerful, and the movement of the mech was also stable. The designer took into consideration the recoil force of the wheel recovery. The seat was designed for this, but what was unexpected was the difficulty in rotating and recovering the wheels after an attack. At the very least, the mech's wheels were extremely lethal. After taking time to acclimatize himself, Wang Zheng entered the training program of the Golden Wheel. This was a targeted course, but in the beginning, Wang Zheng could not help but swear. What was with this darned mech? This designer really was. The first problem with the mech was the crazy big wheels. In pursuit of greater lethality, the wheels rotated so furiously that the pilot felt fear towards the weapons even before the opponent did. This was especially so if the wheels actually hit the pilot by mistake. In fact, there was the chance that one could accidentally slip and injure themselves. Of course, with guidance devices, this was definitely not a problem. However, the pilot had to overcome the psychological barrier first and not be afraid of the weapons they were using. Although Wang Zheng was quite gutsy himself, it took him a while to get used to it. The second question would soon follow. Once the golden wheels collided with the opponent, the recoil would change the speed of the wheels, making it difficult to recover them. Regardless of whether the wheel had a minor or major collision, the change in momentum of rebound was the key difficulty encountered when attacking with this mech. If it took one a little longer than usual to offset the collision, the opponent could potentially attack during this period of recovery. This was probably the reason why the golden wheel had been archived. When Wang Jung tried to recover and immediately attack several times and failed, just as he was ready to give up, he suddenly had an idea in his head. Was he being too rigid? When the mech was recovering its wheels, it was basically passively waiting for the attacking wheels to arc back to the mech. Could this be predicted? The simple logic was to predict and follow the path of the wheels. In particular, these kinds of weapons were very lethal and difficult to operate. The key was that they did not move in a single direction, but followed a specific trajectory. At the thought of this, Wang Jung got excited. When he had previously undergone weapon training, he had also learned other less conventional weapons that were similar in nature. But it looked as though he might be injured before he could use these weapons effectively. This sort of weapon focused on one being flexible. This was especially with regards to their footwork and movement. It was indeed a difficult challenge. Wang Jung was now immersed in the mech and wanted a taste of it. The training was hard at first, and Wang Jung completely lost focus on several occasions. Since his last training session with Bonehead, it was the first time he had been through such difficult training. The average mech could be familiarized with just a touch. It was said that this was the ability of a super warrior. But this was the first time a mech had bullied him with its complexity. Wang Jung was practicing when he received a notification from his Skylink and remembered he had an interview. It was with Aslan Royal College's Sword Shield Rose Disciplinary Association, referred to as the Sword Shield Rose Association or the Disciplinary Association, was the most powerful student organization of the Aslan Royal College. Their members were all outstanding figures within the student body. Wang Jung came to the third office lobby of the Sword and Shield Tower. At the gate, he scanned his ID and entered. In the office lobby, faint glances were directed at Wang Jung. The guy actually came. What is Jiali thinking? How would she recommend an Earthling? She has always done things that aren't normal, but the Earth exchange student actually dared to come. What audacity! What will become of our association? You said that it was an exchange student. Maybe he hasn't figured out the nature of the Sword Shield Rose Association and thought it was like any other club. Here was the place where Aslan's future elites and leaders were cultivated. Those who were not real talents would be under tremendous pressure here, to the extent where they might suffocate to death. Classmate Wang Jung, hello. Jiali was the sponsor and thus was responsible for receiving Wang Jung. She was clad in a beautiful Sword Shield Rose uniform and stood out from the rest. Hello, Jiali. What do I need to do? Wang Jung smiled. Let's talk about it inside. Jiali nodded and led Wang Jung deeper into the building. At a conference room, Wang Jung was asked to fill in a basic information form and would soon be scheduled to have him undergo a preliminary examination. Jiali returned to another round table conference room and sat at an empty seat. Together with her were the 10 main cadres and vice-chairman of the Royal Sword Shield Rose Disciplinary Association. This was a regular meeting at the conference. They would speak one after another, determining the recent affairs of the college. The last topic is about Jiali's recommended newcomer. Vice President Berwick Pompey looked at the time and finally mentioned. President Oz had gone to visit the princess, so all matters mentioned in the conference were decided by majority vote. I strongly oppose this. Our association has never accepted an individual from the solar system. Moreover, he is an Earthling. He is not suitable and cannot adapt to the high standards of the Sword Shield Rose. Ning Kusheng of the Department of Communication firmly opposed her. He was a typical person from Aslan. Even if he were to enter, he would be looked down upon, and he would drastically reduce the standing of the Sword Shield Rose Association. Your reasons should not be taken as the standards in judging the qualifications of a person. His own capabilities should determine his membership, not just his background. I have said it many times before, do not make me repeat this again. Vice President Berwick Pompey was an absolutely fair and equitable person. He was experienced and was also an Aslanian nobleman and an important force for the reformists. Jiali also insisted. Wang Jung is also very competent and has won the Milky Way Alliance's Student Contribution Award. He is very important to our physics department and will have even greater achievements in the future, especially in developing the nation's physics prowess. So I hope that you will consider this matter in many ways, not just from your individual points of view. Berwick Pompey nodded. Sijiali still had a lot of power in the association, and she would never say something she did not believe in. I trust your judgment, but the physics department has exceeded their number of allocated entries into the Sword Shield Rose Association. It is impossible to increase the quota. We can easily make it an exception as rules were meant to be broken. Otherwise, how could we adapt to the changing situations that appear in the college? As long as the president permits it, adding seats is not considered breaking the rules. But now the president is accompanying Her Royal Highness. This is a trivial matter that we should make a decision on. The debate heated up within the conference room. Within Aslan, the conservatives and the reformists were also in conflict, and this extended to the Royal Academy. Sijiali knew there would be resistance, but she was also prepared. About the seats, he can join not as a member of the physics department. There is another key qualification. He is the captain of the Solar System Federation's IG team. We can let him join the disciplinary team. Clement, doesn't your disciplinary team always need backup supporters? Clement had been silent the entire time. Only those with ability X can join the disciplinary team, without any exceptions. However, I am supportive of the idea. Berwick Pompey raised his head and had a sudden interest in Clement expressing interest. Clement seldom gave exact opinions. When he spoke, there had to be a reason. Oh, tell me, why do you support this idea? Elia's men are doing a background check on Wang Zheng. The answer given by Clement was simple and clear. The Sword and Shield Rose Association's biggest competitor in the college was the Thistle Flower Union of Autonomy led by Elia. Berwick Pompey looked stunned. Be more specific. I do not know the specifics yet, but the possibility of them retaliating against Wang Zheng is very high. During the absence of the president, the Thistle Flower Union of Autonomy was proactive in expanding their pool of Ability X users. It is time for us to take the initiative. Clement said very seriously. It didn't matter what person Wang Zheng was. What was important was that Wang Zheng played a role in the expulsion of Clinton and became a thorn in the eyes of the arbiters. So, why cast him aside now? Berwick Pompey considered the situation seriously. If Elia were to make a move, they would first save Wang Zheng. This would not only be a blow to the Union of Autonomy, but also to the entire college. They would be sending out the message that they were truly open and fair and would protect everyone, from Aslan or not. Other cadres at the round table silently shouted and exchanged their opinions. Even the great Aslanian, Ning Kusheng, did not oppose this idea. Keeping Wang Zheng in the Sword Shield Rose would not only resist the Thistle Flower Union, it would also convey a good message to the non-Aslanian people of the college. Moreover, this will further emphasize the incident with Clinton on Elia. I also feel that we can let Wang Zheng join us. We've reached a consensus, but, although Wang Zheng is the captain, is he really an Ability X user? Suddenly, some people raised this issue. According to normal conditions, the IG captains in all countries should possess Ability X, but in the solar system. Sijiali blinked. This was not stated in Wang Zheng's profile. The room was quiet for a moment, and Clement, the captain of the command team, said, the Ability X requirement cannot be bypassed. I propose that we determine Wang Zheng's capabilities before we continue with any further discussion. Agreed. I agree. I agree. Wang Zheng received a notice to go the Ability X quantitative testing room. It was a high-pressure gravity room. The lights were on and there were 5 long lanes side by side similar to bowling lanes. Firefly-like light spots were emitted along the lanes. It was a special kind of photon biological material. The properties were similar to G material. The test was sent over by Vice President Berwick Pompey and Commander Clement. Wang Zheng looked around curiously. You want to test my ability? How do you do it? Sijiali told him about the circumstances. There were no more spots for students of the physics department, so he was specially recruited into the disciplinary team that was responsible for handling incidents. However, they first had to test his ability X. Wang Zheng, of course, was anxious to enter the disciplinary team. Muya had told him about the structure of the Sword Shield Rose Association. Apart from the members of the Round Table, members of the disciplinary team were the ones that came into contact with Princess Aina the most. Sometimes, they were even responsible for the safety of Aina at the Royal College. Moreover, the disciplinary team often collided with others who possessed ability X. Wang Zheng wanted to understand Aslan's standards, and from what he learned from Xie Yuxin, Ability X's application and usage here far surpassed that of the solar system. Berwick Pompey smiled. Don't be nervous. First of all, are you sure you are an Ability X user? Wang Zheng nodded. I am. Berwick Pompey nodded. Clement opened the test preparation box, which contained objects of various shapes, including balls, triangles, cubes, cuboids, etc. Jiali stood on the side and said to Wang Zheng, see these photons on the test track? This is a biological medium similar to G material. It can effectively conduct Ability X later, just try your best to push the medium into the shape of the logo flashed. It sounded very simple, and Wang Zheng nodded and said he understood. Clement picked up a box marked with a number 5 and was about to put it on, but he saw Berwick Pompey shaking his head at him. He nodded and dropped the number 5 cube to pick up a cube labeled 7. The size was the same, but the material was different. One was a metal and the other was a polymer. The weight was obviously different. The smaller the number, the less difficult the test was. Clement placed the cube on the long lane and then started preparing the quantitative test equipment. When Berwick Pompey saw that the preparations were in place, he said to Wang Zheng, start in 10 seconds. Stand on the baseline and prepare your Ability X. The results will be determined by the time and speed of the push, so try your best. Wang Zheng nodded and followed the instructions and stood in front of the baseline. There was a countdown at the side. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, start. Wang Zheng slammed his Ability X into the photons on the test track, and he could feel the substance. His consciousness was immersed in the photons above the long path. This was a kind of G-like conduction, and it felt a little strange. It was just like the G material in the mech had increased by several times, and its conduction became abnormally sensitive. Wang Zheng's eyes flashed with light, and his Ability X extended along with the photon biological media and quickly flew towards the number 7 cube above the walkway. The number 7 cube made 2 turns on the track and stopped. Berwick Pompey was shocked. Jiali's eyes widened. No, this was 2. Both were speechless. Impossible, it stopped moving. This meant that Wang Zheng really had Ability X, since the cube moved, but for the cube to merely stop after 2 turns. Hey, try again. Use your full strength, do not have reservations, Berwick Pompey said. He was in disbelief. Although the solar system had been weak for many years, they would not send such a weak person to be a captain, right? Wang Zheng was slightly embarrassed as he scratched his head. Although he had not used his full force, his burst of power was not small. How did the thing only roll twice? Hearing that there was a second chance, he was more serious this time. Before that, it was more of him going through trial and error. As the IG captain, he could not shame the solar system. He breathed deeply, mobilizing the energy of every cell in the body, activating his Ability X. Second test countdown. 3, 2, 1. Roar! Wang Zheng yelled and used all his might. This time, the number 7 cube slammed forward before returning to a stop. It was as if it were struck by something unknown. Wang Zheng blinked. How was it? Was his performance worse than before? Jiali touched her forehead. It seemed that her instincts were wrong. When it came to military affairs, the solar system really could not compare. Wang Zheng was very embarrassed and asked, is this passable? Berwick Pompey froze for a second and smiled and said, you have already proven that you are a person with Ability X. We will let you join the Department of Foreign Affairs for a week. Jiali, you take him to prove his identity. That's all for now. Jiali nodded and signaled Wang Zheng to leave with her. Wang Zheng stared at her. Is that okay? Jiali was a bit speechless. What is the solar system's doing? How could a person with this level of Ability X become the captain? How weak was the solar system? She could not imagine. After Wang Zheng left, Berwick Pompey and Clement exchanged looks. Clementi operated the machine. A light screen appeared in midair. It was the test. Quantity quantification. Unknown. Capability level. Unknown. Capability strength. Unknown. Actually 3 unknowns. The 2 men looked at each other and Clement frowned. There are only 2 possibilities. One is that he is too weak, and the other is that he is already strong enough to exceed the scope of the instrument. After a brief second, the 2 were dumbfounded and Berwick Pompey smiled. You pay attention. Let him be responsible for the logistics of the team and wait for the president to come back and give him an appraisal. Anyway, his main strength has to do with physics. Has the solar system truly fallen to this extent? In this way, Wang Jung received a Sword Shield Rose Medal and became a member of the Aslan Royal Society. After handling the procedures, Wang Jung left the Sword Shield Rose Association. When Aina returned, she would definitely be surprised. As time passed, his feelings for her only grew stronger. As he stepped out of the gate, Sijiali called from behind, "Do you have time to have a meal together? I want to ask you something." Sijiali was still cold on the exterior, but she was warming up to Wang Jung. Wang Jung thought for a moment and agreed. Royal Road, located at the back of the Royal College, was the center of the business district, where you could find the best of luxury goods, from leisure to shopping to food. The number 12 food house was the most popular restaurant with students of the Royal College. "Welcome. Do you have a reservation?" The waitress was beautiful but dignified and graceful and approachable, making people comfortable without taking attention away from the food. "Please find us a seat." Sijiali opened her Skylink and showed her membership card. It was a platinum gold card with a diamond at each corner, marked with an S on the left and a singular 5 on the lower right. The waiter's face instantly flushed red. This was the Royal V card. It is not issued by the restaurant, but by the Royal Restaurant Association, and it could be used in many high-end restaurants. Moreover, it was a single card. "No problem. Do you need a room?" "No, just a quiet place will do." "Yes, please follow me." They came to a seat near the wall. The lights were dim and the furniture was extremely similar to that found in the royal palace. The overall atmosphere was quite elegant. Wang Jung sat down. In fact, he did not care much about the place where they ate. Sijiali was very strange. He could tell that she had much to do with his entry into the association, but he did not understand the reason behind it. "I recommend the Macedon steak as it is today's main dish. The chef is Fraser Ale, the champion chef of the Star Cooking Culinary Competition. Our first suggestion is either smoked salmon or escargots. Today we have our highly raved forest mushroom soup and 5-year-aged red wine that just arrived from Greentown Round, an excellent match with our grilled foie gras together." The waiter went on like a gourmet expert and made various recommendations. Sijiali nodded. "That will do for me. What about you, Wang Jung?" "I will have the same." Wang Jung touched the jewels on the chairs and the gold trimmings along the edge of the tabletop. All of it seemed like real gold to him. Wang Jung took out the Sword Shield Rose emblem, feeling its weight in his hands. "Is this badge made of pure gold?" Sijiali smiled. "It should be. I did not take much notice of it." "It is very beautiful," Wang Jung said. The sword and shield engraved above a sculpted rose looked extremely realistic. Wang Jung wore it on his chest. It seemed to match the uniform perfectly. Sijiali looked at Wang Jung and said, "Yu Yan mentioned you to me before. Don't take what she said to heart. She is a passionate person and may go overboard at times." "She is a good person." Wang Jung smiled. "If you don't have a boyfriend, I can introduce you to one." "Are you referring to Kai Muyue? You don't like him? It doesn't matter. I have other brothers to introduce you to, stronger and more handsome than me." Haha. Wang Jung thought of Xie Yuxin and how he seemed compatible with Sijiali. "I couldn't tell that you and Yu Yan had a common interest in matchmaking others." Sijiali had a faint smile. "So far so good." Sijiali stared at Wang Jung's natural smile. Wang Jung was not the least bit interested in her. How strange, did her charm weaken? This was also good, as he did not want to create unnecessary drama and wanted to maintain a professional relationship. "Oh, I invited you to dinner to explain more about the Sword Shield Rose Disciplinary Association's rules. Maybe you've already heard rumors from others that are not true." Sijiali talked about the relationship between the Sword Shield Rose, the Student Union, and the Thistle Flower Union. In general, the Student Union will coordinate the issues with the bigger picture in mind, and the details will be executed by us and the Thistle Flower Union. They are not a competitor. Wang Jung blinked. From what he heard from Kai Muya, the two were often in conflict, especially in the management of Ability X users. At the same time, he felt that both parties should have maintained a balanced relationship. "What do you think?" "That's it. However, as long as you understand these things, under normal circumstances, you will not be directly affected, or should I say that you should try to avoid it. Ali's purpose was to get Wang Jung more involved with the physics aspect of the association to allow her closer monitoring. At the same time, she did not want Wang Jung to get hurt. Wang Jung smiled. Actually, I would like to see Ability X users fight. Will they do so? Ali laughed. It is not as simple as you think. With our association and the Thistle Flower Union, most of the Ability X users will restrain themselves. Even if there are exceptions, they will likely conduct an open duel for everyone to see. The truth was that Sword Shield Rose had the authority to control everyone as the disciplinary association. However, at the Royal Academy, each student was a famous genius and everyone had their own pride and strength. Yes, I heard that your president, Oz, is the deputy captain of the Ozlon Empire's IG team. How is his strength? When referring to Oz, Ali's eyes were full of respect, and she said seriously, Oz's strength in the Royal College can only be matched against student president Aurora, the captain of our IG team. That sounds very strong. Actually, don't think I'm too direct. With your ability, it may not be appropriate to participate in the IG. In Ali's opinion, Wang Jung's real abilities were not to fight but to understand physics and to discover new findings. Wang Jung smiled. This is my ambition. Suitable or not, I will work hard. You do not understand, I have already been deeply trapped in the realm of physics. However, I have a question I want to ask. What was that test just now? Was the result really bad? Wang Jung was very depressed. He was very serious about it, but the test results were not in his favor. Ali smiled and nodded. You passed, do not overthink it. In recent times, the mainstream method of determining if one has ability X is based upon this. Mainstream? Do they not have this in the solar system? I haven't seen it. Oh, it was just released this year, so they probably have not imported it. Maybe you just aren't used to this test method. Ali found an excuse for Wang Jung. After all, he was still the IG captain of the solar system. Moreover, she had a lot of questions regarding physics and wanted to maintain a cordial relationship and hence did not use harsh words. Wang Jung nodded and could only accept this reason. Ali quickly talked about physics. From the definition of microscopic physics to the laws of macrophysics, it was lacking in depth. Namely, she only understood very basic facts. Physics was very broad. Oil painting and ink painting may both be painting, but the underlying techniques were completely different. Wang Jung's insights about physics, truthfully, had already become part of his bones. Since young, his biggest interest was not mecha but actually debating with Old Merchant. He would get all kinds of benefits if he won the debate, and he used to treat it as a game. It made him respect Old Merchant even more when he became older. At some point, they entered a deep discussion, and Wang Jung's old mentality strangely resurfaced. Once started, there was no end. Sometimes he felt that Old Merchant had hypnotized him with some potion in the pasta. Ali's forehead was lined with a fine layer of sweat. In the beginning, she mentioned some physical views and issues and got instinctive answers from Wang Jung. Towards the end, Wang Jung's words became foreign to her, from a point of view she had never considered before, making her re-examine everything she thought she knew, including some details that she had never even noticed were present before. However, it was a famous saying, in the field of knowledge, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. At this moment, there was a dispute happening between a couple sitting not too far away. The girl stood up. Indigo, I said I have nothing to do with him. He was merely enraptured by me. The guy stood up, tall with an oppressive look in his eyes. Wang Jung blinked. This guy looked familiar. Yes, it was the guy who skipped class to meet his girlfriend when he first went to mech class. Nicole, I know. I didn't blame you. I just hope you won't accept his invitation. But my friends are all going to that party. Why can't I join them? If you want to attend a ball, I can organize one too. The problem is not the event, but my friends. The girl sat down again, her tone noticeably softer. They had become more aware of their surroundings. Indigo bowed and apologized to the other guests in the restaurant. At this moment, an extremely handsome man walked out. Nicole, it really is you. Looks like we are fated. I have a room. Do you want to join me? all your friends are inside too. The man directly ignored the existence of Indigo. Indigo's eyes flashed. I'm sorry, Nicole does not have time now. Nicole glared at Indigo. I don't need you to help me decide. Oh, are you Indigo from the mech department? I'm Mercius Van Barrett. Everybody calls me Mir, from the command department. Mercius revealed a handsome smile without lifting his eyes off Nicole. Red Demon Dog of the Leah Sphinx Empire, Nicole is my girlfriend. I advise you to leave her and her friends alone. Indigo's eyes were ablaze with flames. How dare this guy be so cocky in front of him? You have so little confidence as a man. Do you want to lock Nicole up her entire life? Such a pity. I expected more from Aslanian men. Red Demon Dog, you are really asking for it. Indigo was enraged. It was not the first time this guy was looking for trouble. Boom! Mercius slammed forward, rushing towards Indigo. His slender arms were suddenly filled with gripping muscles, bursting forth with a mysterious explosiveness. Ability X. Wang Zheng's eyes flashed with excitement. It should be a strength-type ability, but obviously it was not a direct augmentation of strength. Indigo's eyes flashed, and he struck Mercius's punch head-on with one of his own. The two sides staggered backwards a single step. Immediately, Mercius' fists swept outwards in a follow-up, while Indigo threw a punch at Mercius' stomach. You'd better use your ability X. Otherwise, just wait to become a turtle. Instantly, Mercius sneered and revolved his power. In a flash, his stance became as stable as a mountain. Indigo could not even respond in time. Mercius grabbed Indigo's fist before his blow landed on his stomach. Indigo then felt a sharp pain in his fingers, and his wrist was being crushed by Mercius's grip. His voice cracked. Mercius's was about to disable Hema. Boom! A loud explosion could be heard. Indigo had escaped Mercius's grip, but it had already left a bloody mark on him. Sigiali stood up. You too, you have already violated the rules of the Royal College which prohibits the use of ability X in private fights. Please exercise restraint. Sigiali, we are off campus. This has nothing to do with you. If you want to date me, you can line up. Mercius smirked. He was a member of the Thistle Flower Union, and he disregarded Aslanian people. Indigo took deep breaths. Sigiali, you saw it too. I was forced to fight. Indigo, let's go. We'll just leave. Nicole did not want them to make a scene here. The waiters and onlookers around were rather calm. The Royal College students did not care. Even if they caused damage, all they had to do was to give double the compensation. Indigo resisted his anger. He did not want to make trouble, but he also did not want to lose his girlfriend's confidence in him. What's the matter? Shrinking your head in like a turtle? Prove your strength to Nicole, or piss off like a coward. Mercia's eyes sparked with a monstrous power. Wang Zheng was observing the scene quietly from the corner. What the heck was that Nicole doing? Did she have a guilty conscience? Indigo's eyes flashed a deeper shade of red, and his clothes had become completely disheveled and ruffled up. A spiritual force circled around him, but strangely, it had no effect on anything in the vicinity. It was confined in a small area. It looked weak from afar, but in essence, it was concentrated in the form of a sharp knife. Sigiali shook her head, pulled out her skylink, and reported the matter back to the Sword Shield Rose. Indigo and Mercius, both of them have strong abilities. You shouldn't act rashly. Damn. You need more backup. Just stay put. Clement and I will reach you as soon as possible. Vice President Berwick Pompey felt that this was a counterattack by the Thistle Flower Union. It must have been to avenge Clinton. Although this matter was not related to Sword Shield Rose, they were putting the blame on them. Wang Zheng heard the entire phone conversation clearly. He pointed to the scene of conflict and asked, "This should be handled by the disciplinary team, right?" "Yes, we're here to collect evidence," said Sigiali. "Isn't the team I joined also a disciplinary team? At this time, shouldn't I go and stop them?" "Oh, no, it's too dangerous. Just stay at the side." Sigiali shook her head. After the earlier conversation, she knew that Wang Zheng indeed was a rare talent, and she could not afford to lose him. "I think it's okay, they're not really fighting yet." Wang Zheng smiled and stepped forward. "Wang Zheng, don't go. They have already started using their ability X's, it is too late now." The ability X's of both parties had been brewing for a while and may erupt at any time. Sijiali reached out and tried to catch hold of Wang Jung, but she failed to grip him in time. Wang Jung was already standing between Indigo and Mercius. At the same time, Mercius and Indigo roared out in anger and were going forward with their first attacks. The sudden appearance of Wang Jung surprised both of them. However, neither could divert their attacks now. Once brewed, the energy could not be reabsorbed. Go away, Mertias cried out coldly. He further concentrated the energy in his hands, taking into the account energy wasted in tearing Wang Jung into shreds and ensuring that a sufficiently powerful force would hit Indigo. Go away, Indigo roared. He could not divert the energy anymore, and even so, he could not afford to weaken his attack as Mercius's blow would definitely not be merciful. Both of their lives could be in danger. Wang Jung smiled. Don't do this. It's not good to start this conflict every time you two meet. Let's just shake hands and pretend that nothing like this ever happened. All eyes were on Wang Jung. Was this guy mad? Who was he? Booza. With two unusual sounds, Mercius and Indigo's impact collided with Wang Jung's body at the same time. Two different ability X's were about to unleash their force on Wang Jung. Many people closed their eyes and dared not witness the aftermath. A cowardly girl from literature and arts had already imagined the scene of Wang Jung covered in blood in her mind, and she could not help but scream. Sijiali also closed her eyes and dared not to look. It was over. She should not have pulled Wang Jung into the association. This guy had a sense of responsibility that was too great but did not have the power to match up. However, 1 second passed, and 2 seconds later, no subsequent movements were heard until a faint voice began, just like this, shake hands. That way, we can settle all things civilly. Well, the commotion has ended. Everyone, please return to what you were doing. Both Indigo and Mercius stared at Wang Jung. Who was this guy? Indigo suddenly blinked. Ah, it's you. Wang Jung's heart skipped a beat. Do I know you? Was it because he helped Indigo the previous time? He did not want to be recognized. He represented the Solar System Federation. Moreover, he still thought that he could secretly go to the mech training rooms with his purchased ID. He should not do anything too hasty. Took me a long time to find you. Indigo's heart was about to leap out of his ribcage. He had finally found him. Boom. Wang Jung glanced at Mercius. I'm from the Sword Shield Rose disciplinary team. If you insist on doing it, don't blame me for being rough. Mercius looked at Wang Jung. Who do you think you are to appear out of nowhere? As soon as he spoke, he reached out for Wang Jung yet again. Bang. Mercius's head was directly smashed into the ground and his arms were twisted to his back. He was already unconscious. Wang Jung slowly stood up and looked at Sijiali. Did I go overboard? Sijiali stared blankly at Wang Jung, stunned. How is it possible? Mercius was the general of Thistle Flower Union. Indigo was not taken aback at all. Only a true master could accomplish something like that. It shouldn't be. Just, haha, that's good, this guy is such a D***ck. I could not help myself, Wang Jung said lightly. He was less sensitive to guys like that. If you could not make them honest, then at least make them fear you. Nicole, that woman's eyes were actually on Mercius. A few other people rushed out from the restaurant cabins. Only to act concerned now. The politics within the Royal College were really confusing. Several people looked at Wang Jung and started gossiping. I don't care who you are, but if you continue talking sh**t, don't blame me for being rude. Sijiali frowned. Wang Jung was so vulgar. The crowd started dispersing quickly. It seemed like the meal was over, and Sijiali had to deal with the aftermath. Wang Jung felt relieved. He understood his gap with the Aslanian people, but some things were so complicated that he could not be bothered to figure them out anymore. He was going to stick with one rule, and that was to prioritize settling trouble quickly. Indigo was busy comforting his girlfriend. Wang Jung had already disappeared. To be honest, he had always thought highly of Aslan, but Earth was still better, especially with Yan Xiaoshu. Looking at the unconscious Mercius on the floor, the diners in the food court were stunned. Most of them were students of the Royal College and knew of Mercius's power. As the Red Demon Wolf of the Lea Sphinx Empire, his powers were mysterious and almighty, Yet looking at his state right now, the Sword Shield Rose disciplinary team arrived as quickly as they could. Vice President Berwick Pompey and Commander Clement had sprinted here. Yet the empty scene stunned the two who were ready for a battle.